It is Friday, May 17th, 2024. This is another edition of Football Today. You know that dude, Bobby Skinner. Justin Penik will join us momentarily. I am Chris Rose. Producer Mikey is here as well. And we're a little shorthanded off the top of the show because we are bringing in a rare guest, not just any guest. You know him from the mothership, Field Yates. Do you always have your hair done? Like if I were
Yes.
to wake you up at 3:27 in the morning, Gruden time, would it be like this?
You know what? That's a good call, actually. I was going to lie and tell you that it always looks this way, but the answer is no. I've got two young children, as I know you know, but for the audience listening that does not know, I've got two children. My oldest is recently turned two. So up until about, I guess, like banking hours, 9 a.m., I am a little less put together than this hair right now, but there's a lot of product in there. I cannot lie about that part.
That is awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. See, Skinner, you got to get the Field Yates haircut instead of that using that Flowbee on top of your
See,
head.
this is just natural. The back is a mess, right?
It's
But
well
it's
done.
great for being on Zoom camera
Yeah,
all
it
the
is
time.
good.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, we're not here to talk about haircuts and barbershops
We
and
can pull up my
salons.
long hair photo again.
No, we're going to save
Why not?
everybody.
Okay.
You know what? Maybe that's an end of the show special
Wait.
treat for you. We'll see how you do answering football questions. So Bobby won the coin toss. He has actually decided to receive instead of
Oh,
defer to later in the show. So he gets to ask the first football question. Here we go.
Yeah, you got to set the tone. NFL teams don't realize that. No, here's the thing that I've been fat. It's not been talked about because it was talked about so much after the draft with the Michael Penix pick in Atlanta. And I disagreed with it pretty strongly. A lot of people did too. And you're already starting to see the fruits of it. Like Kirk Cousins has politely, publicly disagreed with it without, flat out doing it. Is there already some bad blood in there with Atlanta and Kirk?
well, Kirk stopped short of saying that he would have definitely signed with the Falcons when he was asked. I think it was Tuesday of this week. It might have been Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, when he was asked, would he have signed with the Falcons if he knew the team was going to use the eighth overall pick on a quarterback, not specifically Michael Penix Jr. And he started this answer off with, "I don't deal in hypotheticals." And he went on and he expounded upon that answer more. And he made it seem like he probably would have signed with Atlanta. But the door was at least slightly open to the idea that if Kirk knew what was coming, he would not have actually agreed to this monster deal. Now, if there were no other monster deals available for Kirk in free agency, he probably just would have taken the best deal and said, regardless of what happens on April 25th in Detroit, I am going to that team. So I think Kirk probably at some point this will be behind him. The part that's so difficult, I think, for Kirk Cousins now going forward is that, like, Michael Penix Jr. will soon be under contract for 4 fully guaranteed years. This isn't like a 1 year we signed some notable backup who can breathe down your neck a little bit. This is for every year that Kirk Cousins is under contract with Atlanta. Michael Penix Jr. is also under contract for Atlanta. So we'll have this conversation this year, and then we'll do it again next year, and then we'll do it again the following year. And by the way, 2 years from now, Kirk Cousins has only 10 million fully guaranteed to him. So it's just going to create a problem every offseason that I really think could have been easily avoided. And well, you're right. We've been talking about it a ton. One aspect I don't know that we've talked about all that much is I wonder what Michael Penix Jr. thinks. The guy goes eighth overall in the draft, which is an incredible accomplishment, higher than where I thought he would have landed. And maybe he's just so thrilled to have cracked the top 10 that regardless of where he ended up, he was going to be happy. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if I'm Michael Penix Jr. and I turned 24 a little over about 10 days ago, wouldn't it be cool to actually play? The guy's been starting for 6 straight years in college football. I'm not sure he's ever been a backup at any point in his life. And now he's going to have to go be one for potentially 2 or 3 years. I wonder if there's an ounce of disappointment from Penix's standpoint about where he ended up.
I think it's a
Yeah,
great point. I think it's a great point in part because Penix, you can't equate it to the Jordan Love draft pick in
Yeah.
Green Bay at all. Jordan Love was a young kid, went to a smallish school. We didn't really know very much about him when he came out. We know everything about Michael Penix.
Yeah.
And by the way, when Michael Penix hits the field for the first time as a regular, as long as Kirk Cousins doesn't get hurt, he could be 26 or 27 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's going to have essentially a half season to prove to everybody in the world that he's worthy of a fifth-year guarantee or an extended contract or something. I think that's a great point, Field.
And also on top of this is Aaron Rodgers. People have made that, I think, that parallel far too frequently. Say, hey, the Packers did this with Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre with Aaron Rodgers 20 years ago. Hasn't that worked out masterfully? Maybe. Yes. I mean, it certainly looks like it's headed to that once again. Jordan Love was tremendous down the stretch last year and totally ridiculous in the playoffs, especially against Dallas. But the Packers were at the end of their marriage with each of those two quarterbacks, meaning Brett Favre when they drafted Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers when they drafted Jordan Love. Like, they hadn't even finished the honeymoon with Kirk Cousins before they drafted his ostensible replacement. And the other thing that I would say about it is that when Green Bay drafted Jordan Love, 25th, I think it was a few years ago, it was in the mid-20s. Like, when you get into the mid-20s, part of that is an acknowledgement that the board fell a certain way, and we don't necessarily have guys at other positions that we believe worth the same value as this quarterback. And it's kind of acknowledging that you're stashing this quarterback for multiple seasons. And by the way, Green Bay kind of earned the benefit of the doubt to do that, given the fact that they had done it with Rodgers and Favre 15 years prior. So it was so weird and twisted and backward, especially because, as far as I was concerned, whether it was Laiatu Latu, maybe even Dallas Turner, heck, Roma Dunze, if Atlanta really wanted to go on offense, all would have been, to me, totally justifiable picks at number 8 that help you win now and are guys that, if they play like I expect them to play, could be 7, 8, 10-year building blocks.
Yeah, like you said, they created a win now window with Kirk Cousins, right? And hey, they still desperately need pass rush. They had the whole board ahead of them with Burst, Turner, and Latu, like you mentioned. And then the other point is specifically to the guy they picked, right? You didn't have like that Jordan Love type guy in this draft, but Penix felt like the guy that some team like the Broncos or Raiders were going to pick because they just desperately needed a quarterback, and he was one that could come in right away with that age. So every time usually the more you think about a decision like this, the more you get on board with it. Every time I think about this more, the more off board I am with it for Atlanta.
Yeah, I'll put a pin in it, at least from my perspective in this regard, is I think that the only way that this works out for Atlanta is if the results dictate it as opposed to the process. And I'm not saying that results are not great. That's exactly what you want, right? But so much of the draft, in my estimation, is how do teams understand the process involved? We've seen teams that have masterfully navigated the board, whether it's Philadelphia, Baltimore, the Chiefs with some of their trade ups and trade downs. You're noticing that teams that are generally amongst the very best in the NFL are those that I'm noting, in part because they process the draft really well. Whereas for Atlanta, like, what's best case scenario? Is best case scenario for Atlanta that in 2 years, Michael Penix Jr. takes over for Kirk Cousins, which means that in the year 2026, Kirk Cousins will make $10 million fully guaranteed from the Falcons to either be the backup to Michael Penix Jr. or to be playing for somebody else or be retired. He's obviously, he's 36 already, so maybe that's part of the process here. But if Michael Penix Jr. ends up winning a Super Bowl as the Falcons quarterback in 3 years, great. No one will care about it. But it also means that something with the Kirk Cousins signing, which was the biggest of the offseason, has not gone right. And when you now factor in the Jared Goff extension over the next 2 seasons, Kirk Cousins is going to make more cash than Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, some of your favorite quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts. Like, they're paying him a ton of money over the next 2 seasons, top of the market. And that might be the only window they get out of Kirk Cousins. So I felt like the process was flimsy. The results could make this all worthwhile, but the process to me left a lot to be desired.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to another quarterback. I am fascinated by what's going on in Pittsburgh. Not just because they're in the division of my favorite team, the Cleveland Browns, but you brought in 2 guys essentially on 1-year deals, and Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. Is there any way, as long as Russ stays healthy, that Justin Fields makes a start in black and gold this year?
I think big time, and I think it could be sooner than later. By the way, Russell Wilson's on the most interesting off-season tour. I was watching, as I know you were as well, the Cavs-Celtics game last night. He's sitting courtside. I think his son was wearing a Celtics jersey. Maybe his son's just a big Boston fan. I don't know. But hey, I've seen him at Celtics games. I think he was I live in Connecticut. So one of the beauties of Connecticut cable is you get Celtics, Knicks, and Nets games because you're sort of right in between these 2 major markets. You get a lot of sports in Connecticut here. And I was watching a Nets game, and it was like, yeah, there's Russell Wilson sitting courtside of the Barclays Center. Whatever. He's got the money to go wherever he wants, so more power to him.
Wait a second. Field, do you think he's paying for those seats?
No, probably not. But maybe the private jet to get there. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. But in any event, I do think that it's not a certainty that Russell Wilson is a starting quarterback in week one. Not a certainty at all. And words are simply words right now from the Steelers. Obviously, the message has been good from Mike Tomlin and others about Russell Wilson. Hey, they think he has earned the right to be the leader in the clubhouse. I believe that's a term they've been using, leader in the clubhouse. Very appropriate during PGA Championship week to be talking in golf terms here. But I think that if you just look at how each of them played last season, they're both imperfect, right? I mean, if either of them were superior players, they would not have been on the open market. I guess in the case of Justin Fields, had been traded for a relatively modest return. So I think that Justin can do some things that Russ at this stage of his career is simply incapable of doing at a high level. He obviously impacts the game so much more, does Justin, as a dual threat quarterback than Russ did. I don't think either of these guys is like superlative play on time throwers, right? Like rhythm is not the kind of offense or the word you associate with an offense with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Both of them are much more meticulous. They are unafraid to stand tall in the pocket and wait and wait and wait and eventually deliver a strike when a guy is uncovered. But as a matter of fact, like I'm not going to go as far as saying I bet on Justin Fields starting in week one, but part of me, like there's a real part of me that thinks it's very much, a possibility. And I just think at some point this season, they're going to have to give Justin Fields a look, unless Russell Wilson's playing unbelievable football. But if I were to evaluate this roster, and I know that they have not had a losing season in forever, but this does not strike me as a roster that is good enough around the quarterbacks to carry average quarterback play to a dominant season.
Yeah, and I kind of wish they would just start with. I don't think Fields is going to be good anyways, but at least there's the hope there, right? At least there's like, okay, we can design a run game around him, and he's still got the big arm and good accuracy and stuff. It's just like you mentioned, there's just stuff doesn't come out on time with him.
Yeah.
I know this question is a little off the beaten path, but it's been on my mind. It's natural to feel that Sean McDermott is like on the hot seat with Buffalo, right? You have Ken Dorsey leave last year, Leslie Frazier the year before. They've been a successful, but a team that just hasn't gotten over the hump. And then this year feels like a weird transition year, but you still expect them to compete. But does Brandon Beane and Buffalo and company do they feel that way with McDermott, or is that just like outside noise because of the timing of all this?
So remember the piece that came out, I want to say it might have been in the beginning of the playoffs or towards the end of last season.
The Ty Dunn piece?
Yeah, from Ty Dunn, who obviously he runs Go Long. Him and Bob McGinn do a lot of coverage, and Ty's got deep inroads in that Western New York area. He's from there. He's covered the Bills. So he's definitely, he's got a legit following and some stanchion there. Beyond that, but after that piece came out, it was, I don't know, maybe like 3 days before a game. I can't recall exactly what day of the week it was, but obviously it was during the season. After the game, the Bills ended up winning, and I can't recall who it was that they beat, but it was an emotional locker room, and there were some comments from Brandon Beane who kind of addressed the team, somebody to the effect of like, this is our head coach, right? So there was this message of support internally behind Sean McDermott, and I can't speak to how all the players feel about him, obviously, but the GM seemed to voice his support. They did get extensions last June, I believe it was, last offseason, both Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. What I think will be fascinating is this. The Bills took a step back in talent this offseason. There's no two ways about that. When they traded away Stephon Diggs, they traded away a player who had more catches than anybody else in the league over the past 4 years, 446 in 4 seasons. So you get worse in terms of your talent at wide receiver. You actually lost cap space because of the dead money involved. So you limited your flexibility on the payroll this year. And by the way, the premium pick you got was in 2025. So Buffalo said, hey, like this is a true, in their mind, addition by subtraction. It just might be that the addition takes place in 2025. They could take a step back this season, which I haven't even discussed the fact that, like the Jets with Aaron Rodgers should be a much better team. There are other teams across the AFC, like the Texans are on the rise. Deshaun Watson is healthy. Joe Burrow is healthy in the AFC North. Like it's going to be a tough conference. But if they do take a step back, given the fact that some of that could be self-inflicted, like, are they going to hold Sean McDermott solely responsible for it? I think there's pressure for Sean McDermott just because it did feel like there was some smoke last year. I'm probably a little too naive with some of these coaching decisions because I always feel like the leash is far too short. I think Sean's a darn good head coach. I think they have been sort of befallen by the fact that they're facing off against a team that is already headed towards a dynasty and may already be one in the Chiefs with 3 Super Bowls and 5 seasons. I don't want to do too many cross-sport parallels, but it sometimes feels like what we talk about with guys trying to defend Nikola Jokic right now. Like all of a sudden, Rudy Gobert is a 4-time defensive player of the year, is being regarded as this terrible defensive player because Jokic is putting up 40 and 13, when maybe the more poignant part is we might be witnessing the greatest offensive center ever, even if Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets fell down like 0-2 and it felt like Rudy Gobert and the T-Wolves had solved them for a little bit there. So I'm a Sean McDermott guy, I guess, a believer, but I do think there are pressure. I think the pressure will be there this year just based off of how recent playoff seasons have come to an end.
He's definitely the greatest offensive center who loves his horses more than actually the sport of basketball.
Yeah.
You put that qualifier in there, and I think he nailed it.
Totally. I'm not a horse guy myself.
Shaq likes his horses.
Does he?
I don't know.
I'm learning something. Okay, I was going to say, you know what? You sold it well enough that I would have bought it. I'm not against horses. I just haven't had a lot of exposure or experience to these horses that Nikola Jokic has. So I don't really have an opinion on whether that makes him how I should read Nikola Jokic as a result of his horse affinity.
All I can tell you is this about Jokic. It is amazing. He treats being an NBA superstar like it's a regular 9-to-5 job just so he can have enough money to do what he wants with the ponies.
Ah, got it. Okay. Like, are we going to see him? Like, is he the future Bob Baffert? Is that what this is? Like, is this post-career, his post-NBA destiny, Bob Baffert, with a stronger moral compass based off of some of the stuff that's taken place with Bob over recent years?
I mean, I would love to party with him at Churchill Downs. I'm in.
Yeah, I'm in too. Yeah.
All right. We'll move from Sean McDermott to Sean Payton.
Okay.
And I have been all over this. I said basically, I appreciated what he did with Drew Brees in terms of the relationship that they built. I felt like he lucked into Drew Brees because Miami didn't want to pass him in a physical, right?
Yeah.
Basically 20 years ago. So now the pressure's on Sean Payton to develop a quarterback, to find and develop a quarterback. And he's like, Bo Nix is the perfect guy. In fact, I convinced Minnesota to trade up for J.J. McCarthy. Like, it's enough he invented the offensive side of the football. Now he's forcing trades of other teams. So good job, Sean Payton. Is this thing going to work out in Denver with Bo Nix, or do you have as many questions as I do?
Yeah, I've got questions for sure. And I understand that big boards can sometimes, or just draft rankings in general, can elicit some shrugs and some eye raises and just some eye rolls, and eyebrow raising from fans. But for what it's worth, I had Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix as my 32nd and 33rd rated player on my big board this year. So both of those players were, by my estimation, a reach, going 8th and 12th overall. I love the stat, and you sort of just referenced it, is that, Sean Payton hadn't taken a first-round quarterback, I think, ever in his career as a head coach, and ignored the fact that for, I think, all but 1 year in his New Orleans time, he had Drew Brees, right? So it's like, why would you take a quarterback in the first round? There are a lot of coaches. Typically, a coach with stability is a coach who has a great quarterback, and you're not using a first-round pick on a quarterback when you have a great one already in tow. I looked at the 6 quarterbacks that went in the first round in this way. I thought there was a 3-man tier at the top of Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May in that order, and then a next man up tier of J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr. You can flip-flop those two, as I mentioned. They were 32nd and 33rd, so basically equal grades in my book. One of the great differentiating factors between the first tier and the second tier, the most notable one to me, was that the guys in the first tier were problem solvers that could help make other players around them better right away. The other ones I felt like needed some infrastructure around them to reach the level that I believe will help justify the picks. I'm not saying that Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Drake May can do it all by themselves, but sooner than later, you're going to see the ability from those three to make guys around them better consistently. I think you'll see it from Caleb, who's got a great set of circumstances around him. And I think you'll really see it from Jaden Daniels, whether it's, if he can be decisive as within the pocket, whether it's getting rid of the football fast under pressure or using his legs to break pressure, like the sack number should go down in Washington as an example. So I think with Bo, he's got some good tape this past year. I mean, 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. One of those 3 picks, by the way, was a drop. So really it should have been 45-2 for Bo Nix. But if you're looking at this Denver offense on paper, you're saying to yourself, like, there's some solid pieces, but like, who's the one player on that Denver offense you say to yourself, like, that strikes fear? I'm going to borrow a Mel Kiper Jr. Nugget here, or a note. Who's the fear factor player? Who's the scariest guy on that Denver offense? When you're the defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers and you're playing the Broncos in one of your 2 divisional games this year, you don't say, like, yeah, if we just slow that guy down, we'll be in business, because there isn't that guy on this offense. Like, if you're playing Minnesota, whether it's Kirk Cousins, J.J. McCarthy, or Jaron Hall under center, if you don't have an answer for Justin Jefferson, it's going to be a long day at the office. So that's where I fear for Bo initially, is that I think he's going to put the ball where it's supposed to be consistently. I think he's going to make good decisions consistently. I just don't know that there are a bunch of guys around him that if he just gets the football in their hands, great things are going to happen. That was part of the secret sauce last year at Oregon, where not that one number tells the whole story, but it does illustrate a little bit of how different the offense was there versus the other 5 quarterbacks. The 5 of the 6, besides Bo Nix that went in the first round, all had an air yards per attempt north of 9. Bo's at 6.25, right? So his was basically get the ball out, or get the ball and get the ball out quick. So I do think that in Denver, that'll be the idea, the methodology. I just don't know that throwing the football to Cortland Sutton and Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims is the same as he had last year when he was throwing to, a guy that got drafted in Troy Franklin, his younger brother Tez Johnson, Terrence Ferguson, the tight end. Like, Oregon had a bunch of NFL dudes on that offense, and they weren't playing against NFL defenses every single week.
Yeah, well, first, who do you have higher, Penix or Nix? I want to see if you
32, 33. I have to go back and check. I want to say by the end it was Bo Nix 1 spot higher of Penik. So,
okay.
But it's kind of, that was my 6 in one hand, a half dozen on the other quarterback coin flip. So very close. But there's such different styles, right?
I was just asking for my own biases. But yeah, it is like, Nix doesn't have the big arm that like you kind of need to utilize a Marvin Mims. Cortland Sutton's a pretty good player, but a lot of his production comes from contested catches as Nick's pulling the trigger on those throws. And then obviously Troy Franklin as a rookie dropped further than we expected, even though
surprised about that one.
He does have some flaws as a player. But I do think Sean Payton will be a good coach for him. It's just a question of, like you said, the surrounding. I
think it's a good fit on paper. It just, I think that they've got some work to do to get the pieces in place around him to operate how they want to. And Sean Payton said last year when he got the job, he was like, we expect to be a playoff team. Remember, he infamously called out Nathaniel Hackett for like one of the worst coaching jobs ever. So it might require some patience. I just don't know how interested Sean is in having some patience right now.
Let me ask you off that.
Okay.
In 2023, you had Will Levis fall to the second round, and then you see all these quarterbacks taking the draft trying to find the next Brock Purdy. It feels like it flipped, where you had not only J.J. McCarthy, who was probably looked at as a reach to go in the top 10, but was projected to happen, but then Penix and Nix. Why did it change this year, or is it just, in a vacuum, it's different?
I think there are a few factors in play here. I do think this was regarded as a pretty good quarterback class. Like, I think the 3 that went at the top, regardless of what year they're in, of course, once again, Caleb, Jaden, Drake are going high most every year, right? Those are guys who were not taken that high because of the quarterback tax. They just were good prospects. And then I think there was part of the calculation was we've seen so much attrition in the NFL these days, right? I mean, you look at games last year, and this is, I get as frustrated as anybody about the rules that the NFL has in place to protect quarterbacks when it feels like the only way you can tackle a quarterback is just breathing on him heavily enough for him to fall over. But part of the reason why all those rules are in place is to prevent weeks where it's like, hey, Monday Night Football, Jaron Hall, I'll use his name one more time, against like, Clayton Tune, right? You're like, these are names that outside of the teams that root for them, I'm not sure how many fans like actually really know who these players are. And that's a big part of the league's identity is there's a reason why Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are playing in 6 primetime games and on Christmas Day and, all these different windows that are really crucial to the league's success. So I think that's part of it. I think also part of it is the calculation that next year's class on paper, very early, but next year's class does not look quite as strong. And the last factor, and it's a factor that I'm not super comfortable with, but I think is in play here, is there are so few coaches that have actual stability now, and GMs as well, right? I mean, we're seeing coaches fired after 1 year. We're not quite Phoenix Suns level of like, you better get the job done, or you're in a pinch in a hurry. But I do think that there are enough impatient owners right now. The coaches are saying, all right, I get it. Like, we might be reaching a little bit on this kid, but he's better than what we have in place. And if he hits, we might be around for a decade.
All right. You've been gracious with your time. I have one last one. We'll let you get back to primping your hair and doing whatever else you do outside of being a good daddy. Rams surprised us all in a really good way last year. So who is the 2024 version of the Rams, and who's the team that you are worried could take a major step back this season?
That's a great question. Okay, so who I want to say is my surprise team is Arizona, but the division they play in is so good, right? It's like I think Arizona will be vastly improved. They did some like fun, crazy stuff defensively last year when they were undermanned.
My line is they have a good fantasy football offense, and it's just the defense just lacks, the talent they need.
Yeah. But they would be a good team to pick. I just don't know. It's just not like, that's the one that makes me a little worried because of the division they play in. So I'll go with Indianapolis. I think the Colts could be special this year with Anthony Richardson getting hopefully a fully healthy season. They'd be my pick. And then a team going the opposite direction. Ooh, that's a good one right there. Trying to think of teams that have far way to fall. Philly. No, I'm going to stick with Philly. Not an obvious one that comes to mind right now. I guess, Buffalo makes you a little bit nervous in case things don't go as I forecast them to offensively. But I don't think there is a team that's fallen like a boulder right now. There's not one that comes to mind to me that strikes huge fear into my bones based off of where they were last season. That's a cop-out answer, but it's true.
No, the team we were most worried about after the draft because we thought they were going to fill a few holes was Baltimore.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah.
We still think they'll make the playoffs. It's just they won't be as good as they were last year.
I just like, there's granted they have not had the big time success with Lamar Jackson in the playoffs that they had hoped for, but part of me is like, man, the floor is pretty high there, right? Like 10 or 11 wins feels like that's kind of what you expect every year, because last year they it felt like zero bells and whistles on defense, had an unbelievable season. They just were picking guys up off the scrap heaps, and they're Ronald Darby and Kyle Van Noy, and they were playing real impactful minutes or snaps. I can't leave though without asking a question though.
Please.
Bobby, the Giants throwback uniforms. What do you think?
They are ugly, but they are acceptable because they are pulling from the 1930s and their 100-year anniversary. So they're acceptable for 1 year, but they are just as ugly as they can get.
Okay, fair enough. That's a reasonable answer.
I see Giants jersey edits every year. Bring this jersey, bring this jersey. That's the only one where no one would have taken that. So
fair enough.
It's ugly, but I will accept it on 1 year. I'm still calling for just the straight reds. Like,
yeah, that would be cool.
Anyone that was cool had a red Plaxico Burress jersey in the early 2000s.
Yep.
Field, who'd you grow up rooting for?
Well, I grew up a little bit of a football free agent on the professional level, but I eventually became a Patriots fan. I was a bandwagoner because they were good when I was young. But when I was first, like in my youngest days, my parents, my mom's from Columbus. And then my dad's from Hawaii. So I didn't have like deep NFL ties from either of my parents. So I was a big Ohio State fan growing up. And then that flip got switched to the Patriots, and then they had 20 years of success. And yeah, now it just feels like then you don't talk about it much now because people say you're a bandwagon or a fair weather fan.
When
But
did you
did.
flip the switch, though?
Yeah.
Oh, I was young. I mean, like pretty much as young as I can recall. You know, I remember Bledsoe. Like that was the first quarterback that I watched.
Okay.
He was drafted when I was 5 years old. So, you know, Bledsoe's like my first quarterback that I recall watching. I remember that 70 attempt game against Minnesota. I believe it was. I think it's still the record. It was an overtime game, but the most attempts in a single game. So they got going and they did not slow down for 19, 20 years. So it made it easy to follow them closely.
Brady roast overrated or underrated?
I thought I would say underrated. Here's what I would say. I thought it started off hotter than it finished. You know, I thought there were some like I mean, there were some real moments. For the best part was my mother was visiting my wife and I and our kids, and so it was Sunday night. Obviously, it was Cinco de Mayo, so we had some friends over during the day. Our kids were hanging out. There was like 5 kids running around. It was a great afternoon, and then all of a sudden, the kid went down, and it was like, all right, just going to settle in for the evening. I'm like, holy crap, I'm watching the Brady roast with my mom, who's like, what is this right now? She's like, what do you have on? I'm like, Mom, you got to suspend your moral compass for a minute here. You just got to pretend like this is all fun and games because it is fun and games. And just accept that Tom, it's not personal. He signed up for this. She did not quite understand. I did my best to convince her that this was all okay, though.
Yeah. I mean, you like when you reach the point of watching a filthy movie with your parents.
Yep.
Like it makes you way more uncomfortable
Totally
than it makes
does.
them. You're like, oh my God, we got to switch this off. I cannot put it on. Keep up the great work, dude. You've been crushing it. Thank you so much for the time. This half hour flew by. You're always welcome here at John Boy Media. Before you know it, you're going to be playing blitzball with us up there in the warehouse in Jersey City, New Jersey. I'm just telling you, that's what's coming next for you.
That's a quick drive for me, so I'm happy to do it. Let's do it.
We'll actually send a town car for somebody like you. I'm just saying.
Oh, wow. Okay, even easier.
They make me walk.
How far is the walk? A couple blocks?
I'm actually down in Florida, but I did have to walk through the middle of the Bronx one night for the company, but that's a different story.
Oh,
did you really?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so let me tell the story because I just brought it up because it sounds weird telling it to a stranger. So me and Justin, I stayed in the Bronx when the office was there for training camp, and Justin was driving me around at that time, and he gave me subway instructions because we were in New Jersey to get back to the Bronx, and the subway just stopped. It was like 1, 2 in the morning. So I think I walked like 3 miles through the Bronx at like 1, 2 in the morning.
Wow. Perfect. No Uber?
No, I didn't think of that at the time. And now I'm feeling really stupid that you brought it up.
Oh, but, good. Hey, it's okay. You got your
great
steps
new
in.
invention. Great
no
new
Uber,
invention.
but it was character building. I was ready to go. If anyone looked my way.
Love it.
Field, best to you and your family. Tell all the people up at the mothership we say hello. And this won't be the last time we snag you, my friend.
Let's do it again sometime soon.
All right, so we're making a little bit of a line shift on football today. Out goes Field. In comes Justin Penik, who we just learned made Bobby Skinner take the subway at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, Field Yates made me feel really fucking dumb by dropping that Uber line because we're just like we've been telling that story on the show forever, and we've never thought like, you know what you could have done, Bobby, instead of walking for over an hour is just take an Uber. But then just walk through the Bronx.
But honestly,
steaming mad walking through the Bronx at 1:30 in the morning.
Out of all the people that I know, though, I feel the least bad about leaving 6'7" Bobby Skinner stranded in the Bronx.
I was ready.
Person I know.
You know me. I was ready. On anyone fucking looks me the wrong way, this laptop in my head, his hands going across their face.
I gave you an opportunity that you were looking to capitalize on.
Made for it's not about the moment, it's about
the memory. That's right. Yeah, we said that.
I got one other suggestion other than Uber. Penik, you could have offered him the floor or a couch or something at your.
Oh, I wouldn't have taken that. I'm not sleeping at Justin's house. At a hotel.
The Bronx is safer at 2 in the morning.
Yes,
I'm just not waking up to like Justin's mom making breakfast. It's not happening.
Morning, ma.
6'7", 30-year-old man just sleeping on the couch. I'm past that phase of my life.
The meatloaf.
I'd rather be shot and killed in the Bronx than,
oh my
than
God.
deal with that. Just kidding. That was a little far.
Now I'm insulted. Let's talk
about
the schedule.
I forgot we're not on Talking Giants.
Yeah, let's talk about the schedule.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so I got a handful of topics here. Why don't we start with the most interesting week 1 game for you guys? Penik, we haven't heard from you yet today, so why don't you go first?
I may throw it off. Obviously there's really good quarterbacks playing each other. I'm really excited for the Eagles and Packers.
Son of a bitch. You took mine.
Sorry. I really am. First of all, it's a new location, new playing location. I don't think they've ever played there, the
No.
NFL.
Brasil.
And so that's going to be just fun to see, the B-roll that they're going to collect throughout the week and stuff like that, playing coming in and out of commercial break. And the matchup itself is just really, really interesting too, because the Eagles are coming off of a year where, yeah, they're arguably the most talented team on paper in the NFL, but coaching, and it was just a wreck, and they looked like a horrible team. Packers being the youngest team in the NFL last year, and last year was their down year. How are they going to start the year? So really, man, almost every single week one game, even the ones that aren't on prime time, have like some sort of interesting storylines, most of them. But new date too. It's a Friday night game. I'm in.
Yeah, it's taken away from high school. I agree. Like the Packers
Oh,
finished the season pointing up, and the Eagles finished the season pointing. Like, what teams do we look at drastically differently from the first half of the season to where it ended? It's those two teams on the opposite spectrums. I I think the Eagles are going to bounce back, right? But they have a more talented roster. But Green Bay is, like you said, very young and pointing up. And what does Jordan Love, year two, but not really year two, look like? I'm so excited for that matchup.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I don't know how I'm going to feel about a Friday night game. That could take a little getting used to. That could be a little weird.
Yeah, Rose, do you know that I call high school games as like a color commentator on Fridays and Saturdays sometimes, and I just realized that I may have to work around my schedule for that.
Well, you can put it on your phone now. That's
I
new.
could.
See, Bobby learned that he could have taken an Uber at 2 in
Now
the
we have
morning through the
calendars.
Bronx, and now you can actually get games on your phone. So
It's
these
true.
are new things that we're learning at football today. For me, it's the Chargers and the Raiders. Anybody remember the last time they played?
Yes, we do remember the Raiders smocking them.
Yeah.
70 points.
63. Let's not overshoot the runway on that one. But it did cost Coach Staley his job. He was done after that. I don't think that Jim Harbaugh is going to need to be like, hey guys, remember the last time they took it to you? But if there is a guy who wants to come out and reaffirm his position in the NFL coaching world after kissing the trophy collegiately at his alma mater, it's Jim Harbaugh. He's going to want to come out. And I know that Antonio Pierce is going to want to do the same thing right back at him. So it's a former NFL quarterback in Harbaugh taking on a decorated linebacker in Pierce, who's still trying to, earn his way in the NFL coaching world. I think plus nobody's going to be watching it because it's going to be a 105 local kick. And so it's primarily going against the Cowboys and Browns, which is the main window on Fox. And, oh, by the way, Tom Brady's broadcasting debut in the booth. So nobody's going to pay attention to this game. And I think that it's exactly the way Harbaugh wants to come in, kick some ass, get a division win, and say, guys, this is the way we do business here.
I like it. I'm in. I think they could kick ass that game. Like that could be a hey, we're gonna establish something here. We're gonna punch you in the mouth. And the Chargers actually, I mean, I'm a big subscriber of Warren Sharp's schedule analysis. I think it actually does mean a lot based on forecasted win totals of what Vegas has to say, and also if you integrate rest time and travel time and all that kind of stuff. He does some good analysis of that. I don't like some of his takes, but the Chargers have the second easiest schedule this year. So I think that they could easily be a team that could take advantage of that in terms of the win total that we'll get at the end of the year.
All right. How about most
Are we going to lead
interesting-
off week one recap? We should lead off with Chargers. I am excited for that too. So that's the 1:00 game or 4:30 game?
Well, it's a 1:00 game locally.
I'm seeing it now.
Yeah. It's a 105 kick. It'll be on CBS.
Hey, you're Browns. I'm excited to see Tom Brady on TV. I think he's going to be great at it. I think everyone's going to be sad because he took Greg Olson's spot, but I think he's actually going to be better than Greg Olson.
You think he's going to be better?
I love Greg Olson.
I love Greg Olson too.
He's my
I
favorite.
do too. I think Tom Brady is going to take this shit very serious. And I think he's going to be someone who's willing to call out like bad quarterbacking, even when it's not obvious.
I think I smell an episode, what we expect out of Tom Brady, or at least a good discussion somewhere this
Can you get him
summer.
on the show? We just had Field Yates.
Yeah. Well, with the building blocks. We start Field Yates, really, really excellent NFL dude from ESPN, and we'll just keep. I think we hit up every network. That we can get somebody. We'll get Ian Eagle on here from CBS.
Ooh.
Oh, you have to have cross paths with Iron Eagles at some point, right?
Oh yes, yeah, very much.
I'll just want to talk Nets with him, but we can have him on.
Yeah. Well, we talked a lot of NBA with Field. I was surprised we got that much out of him. All right, I want to move on to this. Most interesting revenge game. Now, this could be team-oriented, it could be individual, and it could encompass all 18 weeks of the season. So, Bobby, you get to hit lead off on this one.
You know what? Going through the schedule, the quarterback ones bore me. Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, those ones bore me. I actually think it's Saquon versus the Giants. I really do. I think that's more than Diggs versus Buffalo. Because we kind of know that there's bad blood there with Diggs. The Saquon, we know this pretty, from the public stuff and private stuff. Saquon wanted to be a Giant for life so badly. And he took the money from the biggest rival, and I don't blame him one bit. But it hurts him. We're going to a charity softball game this weekend. It hurts Saquon that all the Giants are going to be there and all the fans are going to be there. It hurts Saquon. And I think my Giants faithful are going to boo the shit out of him. And I think it's going to I think it's truly going to bother him. And I think he's already bothered by it. So he was Mr. Perfect for 6 years under the New York Giants. And he's going to get ready to be booed by the fans that he kind of pandered to for 6 years, making sure that they loved him. And they flipped on a switch. I think that's going to make for a crazy atmosphere.
And the ironic thing is that the Giants, they did give him contract offers as these, basically it's been a 2-year negotiation period between them. They did give him offers, but the final offer during free agency and the tampering period and everything like that, they did not give him an offer. And that's the interesting part about all this.
Is that who you're going with?
Saquon reads everything on social media, everything.
Oh yeah, he's got rabbit ears. Is that your most interesting one, Penik?
No, mine is Bills at Texans, but I almost wanted it. I wish it were flipped. I wish it were in Buffalo.
Yeah, if it was in Buffalo, I probably would have picked that one.
But it still is for me. Week 5 Bills at Texans. That's enough time where the Texans, some new faces on offense and everything like that, they can get established, and even the Bills that have some questions to be answered. So usually, I say the first 4 weeks almost serve as some teams approach that as preseason games. Hey, we got to get acclimated. We got to get a new system, whatever going. So week 5 is when you'll start to see maybe some better product football played. And I think that's a perfect time for both these teams to play.
I think you glossed over the Russell Wilson returning to Denver thing, Bobby. Now it's week 2. So
Russ is so polite, though. That's the issue.
I know, but I am curious. Let's say it's a tight game at the end. You're not interested to see if he can lead a game-winning drive or if Denver can get that huge stop against the guy. They are paying him $37.8 million this year to not play for them. See, you know how much you have to hate a guy to pay him almost $40 million to not do anything for you?
I agree. Just nothing ever happened in Denver, though, right? Like Russ going back to Seattle and Seattle booing him. That was oh, shit, this is wild, right? And I love it. Anytime a fan base boos, I don't care what they're booing. I'm on their side. But that was jarring. This one is yeah, there's bad blood there, but it's just okay, but nothing good ever happened here, anyways. And Russ is too polite to make it juicy.
I guess that's a decent point. That part I didn't really factor in. But that's the part
that's the number one QB. That interests me way more. Carr, all the Raiders people that made the decision are gone.
Right.
Cousins wasn't drafted by Minnesota. But if you ask me one of the QBs, it would be Wilson.
By the way, didn't you find it fascinating that Field told us that he thinks that Justin Fields is going to play sooner rather than later and even has a chance to start opening day?
Yeah, that was the most shocking thing. The one thing where I was oh, I didn't know. I thought there was no chance that Fields was starting week 1 from what Pittsburgh was saying.
I don't know if that's fascinating. I don't think he plays unless Russell Wilson really just isn't doing anything.
Yeah, what week is Pittsburgh Denver?
2.
Okay. Well, the NFL was smart to get that one in early, at least.
Yeah. And the fact that Denver has won, I believe, 20 of its last 23 home openers. Doesn't matter whether they're good or
That's
bad
insane.
yeah, that's pretty
That's
good.
crazy.
That's pretty
I
good.
wish.
All right, quarterback matchup you are most looking forward to. Penik is what?
If you say
Quarterback
mine,
matchup.
you better not say mine.
Well, you go first because I don't want to steal it again.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. Um, the big names, blah blah blah. Drake May, Caleb Williams. I love seeing first round quarterbacks rookie year go up against each other. So Drake, this is going to be towards the end of the season, or middle of the season, week 10. Drake May, do all the other big names attract me, but this is new, and I like new when I'm looking at quarterbacks. It's fun to see what guys look at initially. So Drake May at Caleb Williams, week 10.
Is that the one you had, Penik?
I was going to go with Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels because they're playing each other week 8. Dude, Lamar, how about this? Week 1, Lamar and Patrick Mahomes. We're all talking about this new look Chiefs team or this new look Ravens team. How is Lamar going to be able to carry this team? Because I think it will need to be a Lamar Jackson hero effect. Where last year it didn't need to be so much, where Lamar won MVP with not even the best of numbers, but it's going to need to be a Lamar Jackson hero effect. I think if the Ravens are close to what they were last year. Boom.
I am going to go with CJ Stroud and Patrick Mahomes. Okay, so this is CJ's first opportunity since he really arrived to say, I'm right up there. I'm right up there. And I think he gave us arguably the greatest rookie season we've ever seen out of a quarterback. I thought he was that good. 23 touchdowns, 5 picks, leads his team to a division title, a home playoff win. Yeah, they got nailed by Baltimore in the divisional round, but so what? I mean, our expectations when they made that trade for Will Anderson was, damn, Arizona's going to have 2 top 5 picks in the 2024 draft. And Arizona didn't pick till 27 because of the year that Houston and CJ Stroud had. And that was awesome. So now, you get to shoot your shot against the league's best in Patrick Mahomes. I'm looking forward to it. Were you guys surprised that Houston got as much national love in the schedule as they did, Bobby?
No, because they're that young new team, the same way the Jets got all these primetime games because it's like, oh, this is new. Let's put this out in front of everybody. And they're at least going to be guaranteed to be fun on offense. I guess it's a small market, but they used to even get a good amount of primetime games when they had Matt Schaub at quarterback and then when Watson was there. So I guess I'm not surprised, especially with some of the. Yeah, I'm not super surprised. How many primetime games do they have? 5?
I think they've got 5.
Yeah, but there's like 8. There's like 8 teams that have 5. By the way, you were right. The Browns got more primetime games than the Giants. Technically, because our Thanksgiving and Germany game don't count as primetime games.
No, but they're standalone games. It's really standalone games. It's not primetime games that you. So if you add in those 2 as standalones, then what?
And then the Giants would have more, it'd be 5-4. But 4 is a lot for Cleveland.
By the way, the Browns could lose one of those because they've got a Sunday nighter, I think, week 17 against the Dolphins.
They put us Sunday Night Football week 5 against the Bengals. I don't understand why they did that.
Huh. What's funny about the Texans? You said they have 5 primetime games. 3 out of the 5 are 3 weeks straight. You have a Thursday nighter against the Jets on Halloween, and then the Lions at home, and then at the Cowboys November 18th on Monday Night Football. So, and I'll tell you why I think they got a lot of primetime games. It's not just that they're a fun, young, and exciting team. They do have a tough schedule. Like they have a lot of good teams that they're playing. I think they have one of the top 10 toughest schedule in the NFL this year.
What do you guys think about it? I know that the Browns have 2 Thursday night games. I think the Bengals have like 3 games in 11 days or something this year. It's brutal. Like we know that you got to deal with one short week, but man, multiple short weeks in today's day and age, rough go, isn't it?
Yeah, Giants have 2 Thursday games and a Germany game. They have the bye week after that. I love Thursday Night Football. But But it is very funny to see a league that is doing all these safety measures, and then it's like, all right, but we're just going to start putting games on Friday and Thursday and Wednesdays. Christmas is on Wednesday. We're not losing Christmas now. That's ours now. We're putting it on Netflix. So it's very funny to see the, there's no safety measures made when it hurts the pockets a little bit.
By the way, they did an amazing job keeping the Netflix thing hush hush, right? We didn't hear a thing about that, did we?
Nope.
Yeah. So what streaming services what company is going to create the cable for streaming? Or just has every streaming? Because I'm paying for every single streaming service and YouTube TV right now.
Right. I know. When everybody cut the cord, they were like, "Oh, I'm saving money," and now it's like you're paying twice as much just to see NFL football. I mean,
cable's the new streaming.
Cable is the new streaming. I've hung on tight, by the way, for dear life.
Yeah.
Just to say, I just like having 400 channels that I.
Thursday Night Football made me get rid of like my 500-pound TV because like, I gotta watch Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Okay.
I like it though. TVs are cheap. I got my mom what'd you guys get your mothers for Mother's Day? I got my mom a TV.
Penik?
She doesn't realize how cheap TVs are now though.
A phone and an iPad.
Oh, you outdid me, you son of a gun. I thought I was gonna have the best one.
Yeah. Hold on. You got your mom. First of all, Skinner, you bought her a TV, and then
55-inch. I wrapped my fiance wrapped it very well.
A phone and an iPad.
Yeah,
that's so nice.
Because I have got her the phone, and then the iPad was half off. So I was like, okay.
Yeah. I thought I was gonna have the best gift, and Justin went up me. What'd you get?
Well, unfortunately, my mom hasn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. It's all right.
When I asked that question, that was in the back of my head.
No.
You might have just screwed up.
There's no. I don't ever want people to feel bad. I mean, I had a great time with my mom while she was around, but she's been gone 17 years, which is bizarre. Not to make this turn to a different area, but I think it's important that people get to know us a little bit. It is bizarre when you can't call your parents anymore. Like, geez, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like our youngest son graduates from high school in a couple of weeks, and you're like,
looks like he's graduating from his, third job.
I know. That's true. That is true. It's amazing. 18 years old, full beard. I had to work on this thing for 40 plus years just to get it filled in enough. Penik, how you doing on the shaving situation?
It's not. I can only grow a neck beard, and we're in a bad spot with the neck beard. So,
okay,
got to tidy it up.
You know what? Maybe if we have a bet on week 3, Giants Browns, loser has to do something with facial hair.
Oh no, make it Bobby. He'll be in the mood to grow something on his face again by then.
Yeah, we gotta get some eyes to talking Giants at some point when the season goes to shit.
Let's go to our last question here with Caleb Williams. He faces 5 other former number 1 quarterbacks: Goff, Stafford, Young, Kyler, and Lawrence. How many will he be better than by season's end? Bobby?
It's tough because you guys know I like Trevor Lawrence a lot. I was kind of negative versus the consensus on Lawrence, and now I've flipped to where I'm like, okay, now he's getting a little underrated. Stafford's the best of that group right now. You got to hope that he can look better than Goff, right? Which Goff just got his money, which was very funny because we talked about that contract and then he signed it. And then the other 2 were Bryce Young and Kyler, right?
Yep.
I don't know, man. I feel like saying he's better than like all of those besides Bryce Young that's a pretty big declaration for a guy who's never stepped foot on the football field, despite the fact that I love him.
Do you think this year he can be better than all those guys?
No, I'm saying it's a huge declaration to say he's better than any of those guys outside of Bryce Young. But you can also see it happening too.
Well, that's why
I'm playing the fence on this because I don't want to.
Don't play the fence. You're not a fence sitter.
I'm going to say by the end of the year, we're going to like Caleb Williams more than Goff.
And Kyler.
More than Kyler. And consensus might make like him more than Lawrence, but Lawrence will be better. And if Stafford stays healthy, he'll be better for this year.
I mean, you know what I like to go off of. I like to go off the EPA CPOE composite. Goff is top 10, and even Stroud had a phenomenal year last year, but he was 12th in EPA CPOE composite. Lawrence was 16th, and I think Caleb Williams is going to wind up between 10 and 16. And that's still, I think, a really good rookie year, especially if you have a good team around you and a good defense. Like, that could end up being a really good season for the Chicago Bears if the quarterback play is above average, right? So that's where I'm going to put him. And I think it's going to be around Trevor Lawrence. It will be better than Kyler. It will be better than Bryce Young. And I think there could be a discussion, at least efficiency-wise, that Caleb Williams is right there with Trevor Lawrence.
So I don't look at the efficiency.
Right.
I look at I just don't.
I don't either, by the way.
I want to say
Like
at the end of a game, who do I want? Because so many games are played within one score. I can't tell you the number of games. It's just become astronomical. The percentage is so high these days where it's a one-score game. So who is it at the end of the game that I want with the ball in their hands? That's it, man. You can make some mistakes during the game. You can. They all make them. But who is it? And I think he's going to be one of those dudes. I think in this list, it'll go Stafford, and then it'll go. I think I'm going to want Caleb at the end of the year, as long as he stays healthy and plays the entire season. I really believe that you're going to be like, that's the guy, man. That is the guy I want. Mm-hmm.
Which of us likes Caleb Williams the most?
I've been saying that I think he's the best QB prospect we've seen since Andrew Luck.
I've been saying the Bears can go to the playoffs, and then Rose just picked him higher than either me and Justin did.
But also, I don't think Rose by that criteria is not wrong. But like, honestly, like, we just had a little bit of a criticism of Jared Goff, last episode, saying that he's good, but not great. Like, that's what we just said. And I think, paying him that money, and and it may prohibit what you could do around the rest of the team. They're still going to be good, but can he be great? And I think Caleb Williams can be great. And that's what Rose
true.
is talking about.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like this year,
right?
Type of thing,
right? But like, even if Caleb Williams is good, like CJ Stroud was great year one. And the crazy thing is that he could still get better because he could still get better from a lot of different standpoints. A lot of them includes like stats.
Yeah. So the efficiency thing, I'm not sitting there. It's not saying I'm not a numbers guy or an analytics guy. That's not what I'm saying. But I don't remember CJ Stroud's rookie season for being efficient. Right. I remember him for leading come from behind wins in Cincinnati and against Tampa. I think those were back-to-back weeks, if I'm not mistaken. And that's when I was like, holy shit, this is somebody that is special. Mm-hmm. This is somebody. I do feel like Jared Goff is efficient. Like, if I were to use a word to describe him, I would describe his game as pretty accurate and efficient.
Yeah, snap release.
Yeah. And that plays in this league. Like, he almost got him to his freaking Super Bowl. We've talked about it. If Josh Reynolds hangs onto the football, maybe they're playing the Kansas City Chiefs in the first game of the year and the last game of the year. But I'm just telling you that Caleb Williams, I think, has got everything. And he's going to learn this year how to be efficient when he needs to be efficient, just like Mahomes has learned it over the last 7 years. That has now turned him into this monster that we see in front of us.
Yeah, I'm really excited for I said, my QB matchup this year. Drake May, Caleb Williams. I'm excited to see what Jaden Daniels is, even though I'm not as high as him as the Commanders were. Even like you said, those other three that we talked about a lot with Field. Like, I'm really excited for the rookie quarterbacks class this year. Like, what happens with all these guys?
Yeah, good stuff. Next week, are we getting back to the what do you got? Yes.
One more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing. Justin from Pawtucket. First time, long time. So the two teams with the easiest schedules in the NFL. I want to get this take out there. Mm-hmm. And we'll probably revisit this some other time too. We had the Jets on here as a topic, but I know we're running a little low on time. And it's like, Chris, you had 7 of their first 11 at like weird times where they have 2 Monday Night Footballs, 2 Thursday Night Footballs, 2 Sunday Night Footballs. Is that too much to overcome? No. I think the Jets have the second easiest schedule in the NFL, and that's also according to Warren Sharp. Where if you look at the teams that they're playing, they should be celebrating. Where at one point, week 3 through 5, they're playing projected rookie starters in New England, Denver, Minnesota. Then you also have Will Levis week 2, even though they have the first 2 weeks on the road. So they're looking really good throughout their whole season. And then the team that is going to benefit the most from their easy schedule, and the team with the easiest schedule in the NFL is the Atlanta Falcons. So look out. I think they're going to have a very overinflated win total this year, and then it'll be 2025 that will be the watch year. Now that they have a more difficult schedule, I think they're going to win the AFC South or the NFC South. That'll be the watch team for a team that may fall off. But the Falcons, look out for them this year. Boom.
So what you're saying is that Michael Penix is going to have a home playoff game.
If Kirk Cousins is not healthy, then yes, he will.
It is. I saw Jets reporters calling the schedule brutal. And like you said, yeah, 49ers week 1, tough. Titans, Patriots, Broncos, Vikings. Then the Bills, Steelers, Patriots again. Texans good, Cardinals, Colts. Like, that is an easy. Like, I cannot believe they're complaining. It is a lot of prime time. So if you're covering the game,
it's brutal for the people that are working it, but for a football team, it's a good schedule for a team with high expectations. They should be celebrating that.
Yeah, they don't like the disruption. So that's
I understand that.
Yeah, I understand it too.
If you're going to be a good team, you need to make the playoffs with this schedule.
Totally, absolutely, they need to, and I think the league wouldn't mind it if Aaron Rodgers is back in the playoffs, because people will talk about him, good or bad, no question about that. Did you guys seek out? I want to get your opinion on this. Did you guys seek out the social media from each team on their schedule release, or no?
Still waiting for the Giants to post theirs. No, it's just you have to watch, like, each one takes like 5 minutes. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna watch it. Like,
yeah,
like I didn't even watch the Chargers one, and everyone was like,
you didn't watch the Chargers one?
Nah, I don't. Got just 5 minutes long. I know.
No, that one takes even longer because you have to, like, stop each scene in order to look at it, because there's so much stuff that you miss.
See, here's the thing. People post all the good stuff, so I see it.
Yeah.
So I saw a lot of them. Just people post. I have the Browns bookmark because the bowling guy.
Yeah.
So
the Browns was fun
just because I like the bookmark. So I bookmarked a couple. I just haven't gotten to them yet.
The Patriots were all right. That was fun with Edelman, and they brought back Gronk and Ernie Adams. So
yeah, it was. Listen, the Gronk was great in it. Edelman was whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's an actor wannabe. I think that's part of his deal, why he's moved out here, and he wants to. It feels like it's going in that direction. Yeah, Ernie Adams, whatever. Like, I love that movie too. I really did, but it's like 30 years old or whatever. Let's move on. And Boston's got to be known for something other than just that movie. So, all right. What do we got next week? What's in the on deck circle there, Penik?
We have the AFC East next week.
Ooh, that's going to be fun. I like that. So make sure you tune in Tuesday for a breakdown of the AFC East and everything else that's going on in the NFL world. I want to thank our guest today, Field Yates, A++ hair. That is impressive stuff. Our producer, Mikey, thank you so much for putting it together. Penik and Skinner from the John Boy Media football world. I am Chris Rose. We will see you next week here on Football Today.